Hello and welcome back to another episode of the On the Sideline podcast of Jackson and Kyle. And I'm joined here, as always, by the man who keeps trying to warn me about betting on the Bears. Kyle, how are you doing?
I'm good. Real quickly, before we get started, I'm going to, I don't know where to pour this. Just pretend I'm pouring something out. I'm pouring this out. The end of an era for the On the Sideline podcast that has only been going on since last March. It's the end of the Matt Patricia era in Detroit. So now we've lost one guy we can make fun of, which is unfortunate. Just want to pour that out at the beginning, have a moment of silence for someone who is really special to us.
Yes, moment of silence. All right, and we're back. I was worried where you were going with that. I thought you were going to randomly retire at the beginning of the show or something. It was who are we losing? Okay, yeah, no. All right. Let's just talk about Bears Packers. I gotta say, Kyle, 4 or 5 more of these losses, I'm gonna start to lose hope for the Bears' playoff chances.
Yeah, I mean, this was ugly. They're thinking, maybe Mitch put some spark into this offense. No, it turns out that the Bears still have 2 bad quarterbacks rather than any good quarterbacks.
Right.
He was very bad in this one. Don't let the stats fool you because a lot of those came in the fourth quarter when the game was over, including 2 of those touchdowns. He was very bad. He didn't read his progressions well at all. He threw into double coverage for an interception, followed it up by throwing into triple coverage for a second interception. And not only that, this defense does not look nearly the same without Akeem Hicks. It's not even close to the same defense at this point. That was a rough game. I don't think, as Eric Hansen points out, I don't see how Matt Nagy gets out of this unless there's a remarkable turnaround of this season.
Yeah, it seems I really do feel like unless this ends up being a playoff team, which probably only happens if they win out here, we can get into the NFC playoff picture in a second, or we'll get into it later in the show with the Cardinals losing. There is maybe a door open. But yeah, I mean, it seems like this is it for Nagy. This is it for Trubisky. And the Sunday night crew, very mean to Bears fans with their bringing up Watson and Mahomes. Why does every crew have to bring that up? The poor Bears fans. I mean, you already know you passed on 2 franchise quarterbacks. And has there been a game with Trubisky in it where in the past 2 years where that hasn't been brought up?
No, but at the same time, I'm like, shouldn't it? I mean, shouldn't it though? Mm-hmm. I just think you continue to watch this. Guess who the 2 passing leaders in the NFL are right now? Just passing yards.
Is that Watson and Mahomes?
Yes, it is. Watson and Mahomes. It's such a fundamentally bad thing. I was by no means no draft expert at the time, but I continue to say at the time, Trubisky's 9 starts, sure, whatever, you can look at that. But at the same time, Deshaun Watson's winning national championships. And not only is he winning national championships, he's going against an Alabama team that has 11 defensive players and winning national championships.
All right.
Now, off of my revisionist history thing, but
I was going to say, we can leave the nitpicking drafting Trubisky for, I think we got it. I think we're aware that was maybe not the right decision.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing else to say about it. I mean, give credit to Rodgers in this one; he was awesome.
Yeah,
I thought it didn't seem like much, but his 2-yard touchdown pass, I think it was his second one to Lazard. I was just so impressed. He had a free blitzer come at him, and in 2.5 seconds, it took the blitzer to get to him. He went through progression 1, 2, and 3. Got the ball off on his back foot. The guy was wide open, but he got through 3 progressions and threw the ball before this guy gets to him, throws a touchdown pass. He was just so impressive this season. Packers still battling for that 1 seed. I continue to say that if they were able to pull off getting the 1 seed, that's the biggest home field advantage any team could have.
No, Rodgers was great in this one. The Packers offense was great, and especially when you factor in, you're right, the Bears defense is not the same without Hicks, but regardless, 4 touchdowns in the first half. It's really impressive. 6 touchdowns in the first 3 quarters. And for Green Bay, their schedule gets a lot easier. I think the problem is just I don't know if they can make up the ground that they need to make up on New Orleans. But yeah, this is a huge first step in getting there, and who knows,
Well, they
maybe
have
they
the
could.
tiebreaker, right?
They do have the tiebreaker, so they just need, I believe, well, just one win, right? I think,
Yeah, so
yeah.
basically they just need to not lose the Tennessee and then hope the Chiefs or maybe the Vikings who are playing for it at the end of the season. Although the same, we're going to talk about the Saints a little bit here. Who knows what this whole Taysom Hill situation is going to look like week to week when they're
Hmm.
playing a real football team with a real quarterback. So I think the window's open if Breeze isn't in the lineup. And like I said, I think that's a huge home field advantage because if you look at the two safest picks to make the Super Bowl, it's probably the Packers and the Saints right now. And Drew Brees hates playing outside in January. It's just shown that he hates playing outside. And going to Green Bay, that's a huge advantage for them if that happens.
In fairness, it does suck to be outside in January and up north.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those like 12, I don't know how it happened, but like instead of bringing like 10,000 fans in or, the minimum capacity that they talk about for social distancing, it seemed
Mhm.
like the Packers had like 10 people there. And I don't know how much they paid for that, but it looked miserable. All of them had like 16 layers on. Like that just sounds awful.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe if anyone's in the chat who was at the Packers game. But yeah, I also forgot the Saints played a Chiefs. So yeah, for Green Bay, just take care of business. You could definitely get that one seed now that I think about it. So yeah, and this is a big win for them. I mean, they lost to Indianapolis in heartbreaking fashion, really to dominate a team that listen, I mean, the Bears they've lost 5 straight now. After I made a video saying the Bears are good, they went 0-5 down the stretch. I mean, this is just a very frustrating season for Chicago, but at least they can sort of say we have a defense. We'll move on for the head coach. We'll try to get a new quarterback and see where we can go from here on out.
Yeah, but Rodgers is now 20-5 against you. So,
well, yeah, I mean, yeah, but Rodgers is just awesome too. So that maybe that's the other hope. Hey, they drafted Jordan Love. Maybe you only got one more year of him in the division. All right, we don't have to spend too long on this, but good win for Green Bay. We'll move on. I want to talk about my team. I want to talk about Tampa Bay because I think this was a quality loss here. I think losing by 3 points, they were down the whole game. They went down 17-0 early, but there was a lot of good adjustments made throughout this game. I thought that their defense, I think that the bulk stats are going to make it look really bad, but you look at the overall, I mean, 27 points to Kansas City. They gave up 2.5 yards or 2.5 points per drive, which is, that's not great, but considering it's against Kansas City, that's below Kansas City's season average. Like, I think this was a fine performance on defense, not a great one. And I think Tampa Bay's offense really got going, and it felt easy for them at a certain point when it hadn't felt easy for them all season early on. I thought they played well. I do think that Kansas City is just a really good team.
Yeah, I guess the first thing I'm concerned about is that it took the Buccaneers 2.5 quarters to decide to put a safety over the top of Tyreek Hill.
Not really. It was in the second quarter they did it.
Well, at that point, though, you're right. Though the stats look awesome, but at the same time, you probably look at those stats and say, "Wait, the Chiefs only scored 27." If you look at the numbers from just Mahomes, Hill, and Kelsey, you probably think they put like 45 on the board, but they didn't. So yeah, I can say that there's quality things about the loss. I do like that. Unlike the New Orleans game, it didn't seem like this team just rolled over and accepted it. They didn't just take the loss and move on by the time they were down 20. I thought the team responded pretty well. I thought Brady was fine. This was a game. The Chiefs look really impressive. I mean, I said it a little bit last week, but it feels like it's a 2-horse race and none of them are in the NFC. I honestly feel like it's Pittsburgh and Kansas City for a Super Bowl.
Well, I mean, those are the two favorites. Again, anyone can win any specific game. So we all thought Baltimore was going to win the Super Bowl last year, and that didn't work out too well. But yeah, I mean, those are the two favorites. But, I want to stick with Tampa Bay for a second, then we'll get to Kansas City. I mean, I thought you look at this game, and there was a play where Brady tried to throw the ball away, it looked like, and it hit off of a helmet and ended up getting intercepted. There was a play, again, where Brady just randomly decides to throw it up on one-on-one to Scotty Miller. Not sure what he was doing there, but those were both red zones or in field goal range situations. If that doesn't happen, this could be a different game. Again, I think Kansas City probably changes their offensive approach as well if the score is different. Also, thank you, Truett Stonebarger, in the chat for the super chat. We appreciate that. But yeah, I mean, I thought this was I think really what it comes down to for Tampa Bay, what they have to do is they have to be able to at least have some semblance of a running game. And Ronald Jones only ran the ball 9 times, but he had 7.3 yards per carry. And they just have to be able to just keep the opposing team honest and get them out of 2 safeties coverages as much as possible.
Yeah, I thought one thing that was kind of interesting, I was watching a lot of this game because, the Buccaneers have, this Arians offense is so popularized for how much vertical passing game they run, how much they send a lot of guys deep. And it just seems so interesting to me with how much they want to run vertical passing games that it seems like they almost leave no running backs behind up to blitz protect. Because the Chiefs were pretty much just saying, Brady is not going to move from his spot. He's 43. We're going to send as many guys at him as possible and hope that we get there before he throws the football, which, for stretches of the game, especially on the interception to Miller, it worked. They got to him and made him make a bad decision before he could throw the football and find the open guy. It just seems very weird to me that for a team that loves to run deep passes, loves to send guys deep downfield, loves the vertical route, that guys – they're not sending a lot of extra guys for protection to give their quarterback a time to make those throws.
Yeah, no, I think that's actually a really good point. That's something I brought up a little bit in my video one day, my 37-minute video when they got blown out against the Saints. Yeah, I mean, that is a really good point because you do think that would be something that they should do more often. I got to say, though, I don't get all this Bruce Arians hate that's coming all of a sudden. This was working 2 weeks ago. This is all of a sudden there's a couple bad weeks against good defenses. And I don't want to say bad weeks. I thought this week was fine. Now all of a sudden Bruce Arians is this terrible offensive coordinator, offensive minded player. I think what it came down to was Tampa Bay was saying we have this receiving core that's built for this vertical offense, and now they're realizing that the quarterback isn't necessarily the guy for that vertical offense, and they're changing it on the fly. And it's difficult to do this in one season. It's kind of why I said I don't think this is the Super Bowl team. But I do think that if Brady can play another year, this could be a really good situation for next year. I just think these things do take time. And I know a lot, and it's probably taking longer than it should have, to be honest. Like, it's taking longer it took too long for Tampa Bay to say, hey, let's start double teaming Hill. It takes too long, but they are starting to figure it out.
Yeah, I think that's fair. The discipline issues continue to concern me more than any offensive scheming. Like the encroachment penalties, the simple mistakes that just killed them. They got to stop when they needed it. And Jason Pierre-Paul goes in way too high on Mahomes, and that gives them an extra 2 minutes to kill the clock. It's things like that are more concerning to me than the play calling on offense. I mean, I continue to see these conversations on, is Brady washed? Is Arians, in over his head? All these conversations, like, I feel like Brady has met my expectations for this season as a 43-year-old quarterback.
Oh, he's exceeded my expectations. I've been blown away by. I mean, what he's been able to do at 43. Like, if you told me that's what he was going to do before the season, where he'd have some rough games and some really good games, I'd be like, great. I mean, I came from Jameis Winston, the king of up and down performances. I'll take this Brady any day of the week.
Yeah, no, I can agree with that. I mean, he still is, top 5 in touchdowns and passing yards this season. So, I mean, there's not too much really to actually complain about this. I think, that they are going to be favored in their final 4 games. They probably should go 11-5, which, after this Rams loss, they might still sneak into that 5 seed and get that NFC East opponent round 1. And then from there, that's basically, getting a win round 1 and then moving into the next week. So, I mean, anything's possible. It's all depending on matchups. I think this team can still, make the Super Bowl. But, I mean, there are limitations, I think, to this team.
Yeah, no, I mean, again, I still feel similar. I feel better this week than I did before this game about Tampa Bay. I still don't feel like this is a championship contender. I think this is a team that can win a championship, but a lot would have to go right. But I do also think one thing that's optimistic for Tampa Bay is that we finally get our bye week. And I think usually a late bye week is a good thing. I think in this situation, it would have been nice to have an extra week to kind of not just game plan for your opposing team, but actually really get into the tape about your own team and figure that stuff out. And then, they play Minnesota, Atlanta twice, and Detroit. the hope is that you win all four. It's realistic that there's a good chance you end up losing one just because it's football. But that's still 10-6, and that probably gets you in almost definitely, especially with Chicago's loss, unless San Francisco or Minnesota go on a run. But yeah, I mean, let's shift gears a little bit. Let's talk about Kansas City because, yeah, this Kansas City team is really good. And this wasn't their best offensive performance. And Mahomes threw for 462 yards on 49 attempts. And Tyreek Hill had over 200 yards in the first quarter. I mean, this team is so difficult to beat. And kind of like what we said, it seems like the only way to beat this team is to score 40. And it's tough to do because their defense isn't half bad either.
I mean, yeah, the defense makes a ton of plays. I continue to, hype this guy up. I was really impressed with Tyrann Mathieu in this one, his ability to just cover the entire field on defense. But yeah, I mean, Mahomes is the best player. It's not even close. I feel like I'm coming in a little hot, like just over the top with a lot of this. But listen, I feel like it's Mahomes tier one, and then it's everyone else, Aaron Donald included. It's just like the guy makes borderline zero negative plays throughout a game. And even when he does make a negative play, he can still turn it around for a 50-yard bomb on the next one. And he's the only quarterback in the world right now where there's less than 2 minutes to go to the game and you throw the ball twice just to get the first down to end it.
Yeah.
Every other team's still running the ball at least one time there. I think that, he's sensational. Now, I'm still a little worried that this team can establish a little bit on the ground because I think that still is going to matter in January. But at the same time, like I said, they don't necessarily need to sometimes. This team is so good.
Yeah, no, I mean, they're incredible. And I do think Kansas City is like a far and away the better team. Like their offense is just ridiculous because, everyone was complaining about Tampa Bay having one safety over the top, but you get why they decided to do it because when they did go back and they started playing really a cover three with, an emphasis on taking away the deep stuff, then Mahomes can simply just stink and dunk and get points that way. And it did work better. That is what at the end of the day, what you have to do. But I just feel like Kansas City is going to be favored in every game they play in. And the only way they don't win the Super Bowl, I think, is if Pittsburgh gets the 1 seed and that bye is enough of a difference. Because I just think this team they're better than what I thought they were going to be. And they won the Super Bowl last year.
Yeah. No, I agree with everything you said. I think it's going to be interesting. I think next offseason, along with our quarterback draft, we need to do a wide receiver draft because Tyreek Hill's on it somewhere.
I had a question.
Yeah.
Can you say he's the best receiver in the league? Like, I think you can make that argument.
Yeah, I mean, sure. I think the argument's there. The thing is that this is definitely the best just accumulation of talent that the NFL's ever had with wide receivers. And, it's just because of how much the game's changed. It's in the college game as well, where this is the first time I feel like I've looked at football and said wide receivers are better and more important in the game than running backs, probably in this last 3 to 4 year span. So I feel like I could honestly make a conversation for like 4 or 5 guys, but he is definitely one of the guys I'd put in the conversation.
Yeah,
his speed is such an advantage.
I'll say this. I think the combination of the Mahomes to Hill, I think that's the best in the league. The pairing of, the big arm Mahomes who can, throw it 60 yards down the field with the fastest receiver in the league. I think that's good. I mean, I still think someone brought up Hopkins in the chat. I would still go with Hopkins, but I think depending on your offense, you could say that Tyreek is the guy you'd want.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think, Hopkins has a case. I still think Michael Thomas, despite the weird season, I think Thomas has a case. I think Hill has a case. There's a ton of guys out there. But yeah, he's such an asset. And I would say, more so than Hopkins, I think he's a guy that teams probably fear him more than any other receiver in the league because he's so hard to game plan for. His skill set almost forces you to have 2 guys accounting for him.
Yeah. Someone said Salty Jackson in the chat. I'm not sure how I'm being salty, but all right, we'll move on. We spent too long on that anyways. We'll move on to the next game now. Let's talk about this one. How about San Francisco? They're not dead yet. They're 5-6 here. They're only a game out of the playoff, but only a game behind Arizona at this point. So this is the big win for San Francisco. They find a way to pull it out despite having only half their team. I mean, this has been another impressive performance. And they play Buffalo next week, which is tough. They then play the Washington football team. They play Dallas. So if they can find a way to beat Buffalo, maybe they'll be healthy towards the end of the season. They play Arizona week 16. It's a long shot, but you at least have hope if you're a 49ers fan.
Yeah, there's hope. I think it's still a little too late. Plus the injuries. This team, Kyle Shanahan wakes up for the Sean McVay matchup. I think he just salivates at proving that he's the best offensive play caller.
Mm-hmm.
He's owned him this season. He's outcoached him this season. And, as the NFL Twitter and NFL circles have gone to a collective jerk off over A.J. Brown and DK Metcalf, Deebo Samuel came in and said, don't forget about me. As far as the second-year receiver goes, he was sensational in this one. He got the patented Greg Jennings putting the team on his back. Was that him, I think? Yeah. So just a sensational performance from him. And yeah, San Francisco, they have a lot of pride in this team, I think. This team just doesn't quit.
Yeah. And big win for them. I thought Nick Mullins wasn't perfect. He did what he had to do. I also liked big play call late in the game where it was a 4th down and 1 on the outside of field goal range with a minute left. San Francisco decides to go for it and gets it, and that led to them kicking the game-winning field goal. We do have to talk about the flip side, though, and this was another one of those days for Jared Goff. Even late in the game, he has a chance to win it, tied 20-20 with a couple minutes left. He tries to fit it in through a tight window with Cooper Kupp not seeing Robert Woods wide open over the middle of the field for an easy first down. He throws 2 interceptions, one being a pick 6 to Javon Kinlaw. I mean, Goff's going to have these, and he had one of those days again here against San Francisco.
Yeah, I don't know. I keep not understanding this. I don't get it. He goes against teams like the Bears and the Buccaneers with great pass rushes, and he looks awesome at times, and he looks, poised. And then he goes against the depleted 49ers who, Kerry Hyder is having a solid season, but is by no means like an elite pass rusher, starts to tear them apart. And it's just like, what? I don't get who this guy is. What is, I don't know. It's so frustrating. Obviously, there's always going to be a ceiling on this team because Jared Goff's their quarterback.
Yeah, no, it's weird. I mean, granted, that ceiling is, at least as of right now, is still making it to a Super Bowl. I still think this Rams team is good, but you kind of just need to hope he doesn't have one of those games in a playoff run, which he did in that Super Bowl. So yeah, I mean, this is a disappointing loss for LA because I think they sort of felt like they maybe had an outside shot at that 1 seed, or they could at least, win the division perhaps. Now, unless this was an elaborate plan to try and get the 5 seed, which I don't think it was, this was a disappointing loss for them. But again, for San Francisco, I mean, it seems like Kyle Shanahan could just pick up guys off the street and he'd still find a way to get that team to go like 7-9.
Yeah. No, I mean, especially, he'd have that offense running perfectly, whether he's in the MAC or the NFL. It's insane. I think, I don't know, so I just feel like the problem that the Rams are going to run into is every team in the NFC, I think, has a flaw. I think that's the biggest thing when I say it's Pittsburgh, Kansas City, and everyone else. I think that every NFC team has a flaw. The problem is that you look at the teams that it's, there are teams that I think can make a run. I think Minnesota and San Francisco. I'm not a believer in Chicago. I do think Minnesota and San Francisco can make a run, but at the same time, I feel pretty confident the 7 teams right now are the 7 playoff teams. The Rams probably have the second worst quarterback of that group, and that's just because an NFC East team has to make it.
Yeah. I mean, no, you're not wrong, and it is concern. But again, Goff can at times be great too. So that's the frustrating situation with Goff. It's really just consistency that is his issue. And it does seem like, we saw San Francisco play a lot of man, which isn't typically what they like to do. They did a lot in this game, and I think that is a direct result of Goff will turn the ball over against man coverage. That's clearly the book is out to some degree. But again, I mean, there's also plenty of reasons to be optimistic if you are a Rams fan. Their defense is still great. They were able to get a turnover off of Mullins and hold San Francisco to a decent amount. And Cam Akers did finally seem to show some life. He ended up with, I believe, was a 62-yard run or something like that. He had a big run in this one. So some reasons for optimism. But yeah, this is the game you wanted to win. And it's disappointing that it seems like Shanahan just has McVay's number.
Yeah, and good for Richard Sherman to come back and have a strong performance in this one. He came back after he hasn't played since September and came back and got an interception too. So, yeah, I mean, this is a nice win for San Francisco. Keeps themselves alive. I don't know. Are you betting for any of these teams to jump up and pass Arizona?
Well, let's just jump over. Let's talk about that Arizona game. Why don't we do that? Why don't we do it this way? And then we'll talk about it after the game. Your New England Patriots continue to be the most confusing team in football. Who knows if they're good or not? They just flip a coin, and if no matter who they barely beat the Jets, they now can beat Arizona. I'll let you take the floor on this one. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I mean, so New England is 5-6 on the season with wins against potential playoff teams in the Dolphins, Raiders, Ravens, and Cardinals, and losses to the Texans, 49ers, and Broncos. Like, I don't get it. Like, this team definitely plays to its level of competition. I thought the defense for the Patriots was awesome in this one. I thought Adam Butler got some national recognition that he deserved because he's been awesome, I thought, for the past couple seasons for New England at the defensive tackle spot. And he was a wrecking crew in this one. I thought they did a really good job, which is, continues to be baffling because they played the Texans without Tunzel last week. Couldn't get any pressure on Watson. Go into this Arizona game, and all of a sudden it seems like there's guys in the backfield almost every play. I saw a stat, too, that Kyler Murray now has 6 touchdowns and 7 interceptions when facing blitz. So that's a little concerning. But at the same time, I just think that the Patriots, it was an impressive win. I don't think this is a playoff team. I don't think they're making it still because they lost too many bad games. But I thought it was an impressive win from the defense who, kind of got punched in the mouth a little bit last week.
Yeah, I mean, again, for the Patriots, it almost feels like you're just sort of seeing what you got in these guys. It is a rebuilding year. It's good for them. For Arizona, though, you can't lose this game. You just can't. And you're trying to make the playoffs here. And you got to think about it. We feel very good about Arizona. Again, they're this fun new team that's very exciting and very electric at times. At the end of the day, this is if they don't throw that Hail Mary, this team is currently tied for a playoff spot and below 500. I mean, they're kind of lucky to be in this situation right now. This is just not a good loss. You lost to a quarterback who threw for 84 yards.
Yeah. Cam Newton was so bad in this one.
Was he? Okay.
Yeah, he was. Oh, man. It was ugly. I mean, he had a couple nice throws, and obviously he got the first down at the end, combined with the questionable out-of-bounds penalty on Isaiah Simmons that got us in field goal range. But at the same time, we had the worst blindside block, so it's not the referee's fault that Arizona won or lost this game.
Can I talk about the refs?
Yes, go for it.
I don't get what people the blindside block looked like the right call to me. Am I blind? It looked like because again, to be fair, what the blindside block is, and we should be clear on what the rule is. It's if you're going towards your own end zone or laterally. That's what and then you block with significant force. To me, it looked he kind of stopped. He stopped, and so you could argue that like he didn't really move backwards anyway, but it does say laterally as well. So I think that's a fine rule. And all 3 refs that saw it threw the flag. So I think that they're consistent here. I don't get why that was such a big deal.
Yeah, I just think that the problem with the block is that what is he supposed to do there?
You just can't do significant force. You have to basically use your hand.
Yeah, but if he just stands there, then he's going to get run over and get hurt himself. Like, how is that safer for the league if he just stands there and takes the hit?
I mean,
because the other guy clearly sees him, and if you look at the replay, he also lowers his shoulder to also initiate contact, and Jennings just came out on top. So what's he supposed to do there besides get killed?
Well, what you're supposed to do is, again, use your – I think he could have used his hands to make that block and not got himself hurt and also been able to make the play. Don't get me wrong, I'm not a crazy fan about it. It is one of those weird situations, and if you have a problem with the rule, that's one thing. I just get frustrated when a rule is implemented correctly and everyone blames the refs. If you don't I get that's my is your problem with the rule itself, or is your problem with how the rule was implemented?
I think my problem is more with the rule itself. I think that I think the issue with a lot of rules in the NFL, or especially some of these new ones they're implementing, is they're very black and white with a lot of their stipulations and parts to it, and there's almost no gray area because this. I don't think the situation for a blindside block rule would be for a guy stopping on his, stopping to block a guy who's behind him who clearly sees him because he's in his running path. I don't think when they're saying moving laterally or moving back towards your goal line, it was to block a guy who's looking right at you. Because it seems like Gunner's going to run in for the touchdown, but there is a chance he's supposed to catch him in that situation. I think the problem is the rule itself that has no gray area in it.
Well, I disagree, because I think that if you make the gray area, then that it's sort of like the quarterback slide thing, where now it incentivizes quarterbacks to slide late because then you can get penalties that way. Where if there's a gray area, I like the fact that there's no gray area, because it doesn't incentivize players to not see a hit coming, because then you're gonna because now whether you see the hit coming or don't see the hit coming, it's a flag either way. I think that's the better way to do it, so that way you're not incentivizing players to keep their head down. And I don't know. I think it was the right call. I think that he didn't have to fully stop. He could have just blocked while continued running. I think it was a mistake. Maybe we'll just agree to disagree, but I think there is a way you make that block without hurting yourself.
Yeah, I mean that's fair. It worked out for us in the end. We still got the win.
Mm-hmm. That should be clear. Also, I thought there was helmet to helmet hit on the Isaiah Simmons hit at the end too. I thought that So I didn't think it wasn't a late hit, but I think they called it did it call it a late hit or a helmet?
No, they called it helmet to helmet.
Okay, yeah, which I thought was it was close, but I thought it was the right call as well. So I don't know. I feel like people want to complain about the rules sometimes, but it's like we need these rules for a reason. If you don't like them, fine, but it was implemented correctly, I think.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I mean, like I said, it worked out for us in the end. So it was.
Sorry, rant over.
No, it's okay. It was it was an interesting game. I thought Bill Belichick was awesome in this one. And yeah, these are the kind of games where I watch this Cardinals team and it's like, does Cliff Kingsbury know what he's doing? Like, this guy was a middling college coach when he had Patrick Mahomes on his team, and now he looks like a middling NFL coach because there's no creativity to his offense. He has the best wide receiver in football and, one of the most athletic quarterbacks in the league. And it's just like there's no creativity to this team. There's so many things that it's just like, they had that play at right at the end of half where the clock basically stopped for them. They had a 1 yard play. And with all that talent on their team, they hand the ball off to Kenyon Drake up the middle. And it's just immediately stopped, and they go out without getting that touchdown at the end of the first half. Like, there has to be something that they can do more than that.
Yeah. And one other thing we should talk about as well is that Zane Gonzalez misses another big field goal here, where, what was it, a 45-yarder, if I remember correctly? And that would have put Arizona up. Instead, it gives New England good field position. And then they have New England in a 3rd and 11. Cam Newton runs for the first down, and that was the Isaiah Simmons penalty right after, which I think was a penalty. So, Arizona, in a lot of ways, they beat themselves in this one. And you can't do that down the stretch. This is the game that you kind of thought you were going to win when you were looking at the schedule. You play LA next. You still play the Rams twice. The schedule is relatively easy outside of that. They play San Francisco as well, who might be fighting for a playoff spot. And you got to turn it around. There's a few now ugly losses on this roster for Arizona. They've lost to Carolina. They've lost to Detroit. And now they've lost to New England. Those are all under 500 teams. If you want to make the playoffs, you can't lose another one of those.
Yeah. It's a young team. I think we all felt like this was a team that's a year away. And I do feel like there is times where you watch this team and it's like, this is why we kind of felt that way. I think there's still parts. I think the offensive line needs some help. I think that this team kind of needs to go through some growing pains at times. But yeah, I think they're going to be good. But I mean, if they lose out on the playoffs this year, that's going to be a tough break. I still think they make it, but we'll see what happens. I think they should make it, though.
Yeah, and again, that Hail Mary really looking huge now. We'll move on
Yeah.
now. Again, I still think Arizona's they're a top 7 team in the NFC. I think we'll see what happens. Let's talk about one of the more wild finishes by a team trying to get one of those top 7 seeds into NFC, or I guess really top 6, because the NFC East, they don't deserve to be one of those. You have Carolina and Minnesota. This was a really crazy back and forth game where Carolina led by 3. They punt the ball back to Minnesota. Minnesota botches the punt return and they fumble it. Carolina gets it, but then they decide to kick a field goal at Minnesota's 3-yard line inside of 2 minutes left with no timeouts instead of just going for it there. That put them up 6. Minnesota marches down the field. Cousins does a great job, gets them to go ahead touchdown, and Teddy Bridgewater then goes back down the field, gets them in field goal range, but there's a missed 56-yard field goal. Crazy fun game that maybe will potentially have playoff implications. Probably not, but there's a small chance. What were your thoughts on this one?
This Minnesota team's so sloppy, man. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, like, I know the stats ended up closer than they were. I felt like Minnesota weirdly was kind of way better in this one.
Yeah.
I know they were. The offense was so good.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, well, there was those back-to-back fumbles for touchdowns. That was really a huge difference in this one. Yeah, I mean, Minnesota, they do kind of beat themselves in a lot of ways. But one thing I want to talk about for Minnesota, Kirk Cousins has quietly been on a tear these past 4 or 5 games. He went for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns, no picks in this one. There was I'm not sure exactly how much, but he's been actually playing really good football as of late. I talked about how he currently leads the league in yards per attempt. We got to give him some credit. He has turned his season around. That was a very bad start to the season.
Yeah, no Adam Thielen in this one. Justin Jefferson, if it weren't for these 2 rookie quarterbacks looking really good, I think he's the rookie of the year. Justin Jefferson has been so absurdly good for this offense, being able to stretch the field. I think this is, this Minnesota offense, even when Cook went out, it's been so good, and it's so ridiculous. Like you said, the one fault of this offense, which is a big fault, is you can't gift the team 17 points. You can't gift the team, especially you can't gift the team 2 defensive touchdowns. Just a really bad performance in that regard. You can't just gift them those points because, like I said, I think besides that, Minnesota was the way better team and they actually played pretty good football. But yeah, two fumbles for touchdowns is not going to help your case.
Yeah, I mean, it was that is very true. I mean, one of them was Kirk Cousins. I forget who the other one who fumbled was. Yeah, I mean, you can't be doing that, and that's why I still don't think this Minnesota Vikings team is great. But you play Jacksonville, and kind of maybe a good thing is they play Tampa Bay, which that's a team that they could maybe be looking at potentially trying to jump to get into the playoffs. They then play Chicago, New Orleans, and Detroit. So realistically, they could win 3 more games, and that probably won't be enough to get in. That puts them at 8-8, and that feels about right. But you know what? For a Vikings fan, at least you're keeping the hope alive for 1 more week, and I think that's promising.
Yeah, I think the schedule's too tough down the stretch with those 2 big games. Who do you think's better, Minnesota or Chicago?
I don't know. I mean, I'll guess I'll give the edge to Minnesota because they beat Chicago earlier, but I think they're about on the same level.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's close. I mean, your argument for Chicago is that they're at least elite at one side of the ball. But I think this Minnesota offense has been really impressive. Hopefully, I didn't see the diagnosis, but hopefully Cook doesn't miss too much time. But yeah, I just feel like it's probably a little too late for this Minnesota team, with those 2 NFC South opponents on their schedule. But yeah, I mean, they pulled this one out somehow, some way. But yeah, Kirk Cousins has been really good. And yeah, I can't stress enough how much Jefferson has impressed me this season.
Yeah, we should also talk about, Carolina. They're continuing to do well despite being banged up. I thought Teddy was also great in his final drive. It didn't end up giving them a win, but it was still very much a promising drive that ended up falling short, which is cool. Robbie Anderson had 94 yards on 4 catches. I mean, again, we've talked about it. This Carolina team is they're in the situation where they're just trying to see what they got. They're rebuilding for next year, but it was again, it's another one of those close losses for Carolina. They're going to end up being like one of those Chargers teams that ends up with like a positive win differential at the end of the season, despite a terrible record.
Yeah, I think it's been a fine. I would say this is definitely a successful season for Carolina because this is a team that I think I've personally thought, and I don't think I was the only one who thought this might be one of the worst teams in the league based on just the talent on the roster, too many young guys going on, and they've definitely exceeded that expectation, especially with McCaffrey being out. Yeah, I mean, I thought Bridgewater was fine. I thought he missed a few throws, but at the same time, he made some really good throws too. Another rookie on their side of the ball who looks like he's just going to be a stud is Jeremy Chin. Chin was awesome in this. He hit both the touchdowns off the fumble recoveries and also led the team in tackles. I think Chin's going to be awesome. He looks like, just one of those big safeties who makes a bunch of plays. I'm really excited to see him going forward.
Yeah, that's always got to be a good day, good feeling. With defensive player with multiple touchdowns. That doesn't happen too often. Yeah. Let's move on. This was a crazy one. This one was we were very interested in this one. This was the first game that was drafted in our preview show. Tennessee is able to, again, sometimes they just do this where you want to count them out, but you want to say they're only a 3-player team. It's all Ryan Tannehill, Derrick Henry, and A.J. Brown. Well, you know what? Those 3 guys are really good, and the rest of their team definitely held their own in this. And this was an impressive performance against a good Colts team.
Yeah, I mean, I gotta fault Mike Vrabel here a little bit. Going for the 1-yard Ryan Tannehill touchdown at the end of the half when Derrick Henry could have gone for 4 rushing touchdowns in the first half, which would have been cool to see. And he has to give it to Tannehill there at the end. I was disappointed in that. He runs that wildcat every time except for then. Anyways, yeah, I mean, Henry probably locked up Offensive Player of the Year tonight, right? Especially if Cook's missing a couple weeks.
Oh, I don't know. I haven't thought much about it. Maybe. I mean, there's still 5 weeks left. He hasn't locked it up.
He was impressive, man.
Well, yeah, but yeah, I mean, just saying, we got a lot. Third of the season left.
I just think maybe outside of LeBron James, he's probably the most impressive athlete to watch, like doing his thing. I think that his. I just think it's so insane how he's able to do it. He's just so big. No one should be that big, that strong, and that fast. And he's able to do all of it. And I mean, I'm not the only one, obviously, who's on the Derrick Henry bandwagon, but he's just so impressive. And yeah, he tore this Colts defense apart without Buckner. Something that I kind of saw might happen.
Yeah. No, you called this one well in our preview. I see someone asked, he says, Stevie said, how was Rivers? Rivers was fine. Rivers, it wasn't his fault. He actually, I thought, played well in the first half, but they just, again, they gave up 14 points in the first quarter and 21 points in the second quarter. So at a certain point, when you've given up 35 points at the half, you kind of just got to start slinging it. He did throw an interception. That was kind of just I got to start taking chances here. And that's one of the cool things about Rivers is he doesn't care about throwing a turnover if he thinks it's going to try to help him get back in the game by, taking those chances. But this is just, I mean, against a good Colts defense, they didn't have Buckner, but even so, Tennessee was able to just roll all over them. This was an impressive win.
Yeah, they did everything really well. A.J. Brown with a nice 69-yard reception. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just think that this is what you look for in Tennessee and say that this is a team that is going to win the division and steamroll everyone else in the AFC South. I mean, you look at this team when this offense is clicking, you're like, how is anyone in the AFC South competing with them? It's just, are they going to get it consistently is the question that we've seen all season, because when we haven't seen the passing game clicking as it was today to help out Henry, this team has struggled a little bit. So it's interesting. It was just really impressive. I think you probably have to think this team's winning the division now.
They got a great shot. This win was huge. If they lost this game, it probably would have been over. They would be looking at the wild card. So this is a huge win for them. I still don't fully understand how they lost to Cincinnati 4 weeks ago or whatever, but they play Cleveland next. That's an interesting game. I'm looking forward to seeing how that goes. And yeah, any final thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I'm not worried about the Colts either. I think they're going to bounce back. I
Yeah.
thought this was a tough spot. Tennessee was angry, first of all, for losing. And then, like I said, you're missing your best defensive player. I think that matters.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I think both these teams, they look like playoff teams. And for Indianapolis, you play the Texans 2 out of your next 3 weeks, so that's a way to sort of pad the schedule. They still play Jacksonville again, although, didn't work out too well the first time, but I think it'll work out better for them week 17. They also play Las Vegas in 2 weeks, so that could end up being a big game with playoff implications. Let's move on. Let's talk about what the hell happened to the Las Vegas Raiders. What happened here? How did they lose 43-6?
Their offense did not play well. They turned the ball over. They looked sloppy at times. I mean, look, this is probably this is the one where Derek Carr doubters are going to point to this game as an example of why, as people who wanted to say all offseason that maybe it's time to move on, should they look at Brady? This is the one that Derek Carr doubters are going to point at, despite how good he's been this season. I think Atlanta's defense has certainly improved since Dan Quinn got fired, but they shouldn't be this good. They shouldn't be holding them to 40 yards on the ground. Just an embarrassing performance. This was kind of on the corner spot on my TV. What do you think?
At a certain point, I'm looking forward to. I'll definitely be making a video about this one, trying to figure out what went wrong. But there were moments where it just seemed like there's a couple fumbles Carr had. It just kind of seemed like they weren't prepared for this one mentally. It just seemed like they were kind of just going through the motions a little bit. And Atlanta's a better team than their record would show. I really do think that way. And I think that we kind of talked about this. I'm a believer in trap games. I think they're a real thing. And we kind of talked about this in the pre-show where we said in the weekly preview, we said this could be a game that Las Vegas kind of says, we finally get past this difficult part of our schedule. Maybe we can start to things can work out better in the future. But this was tough. Nathan Peterman ended the game with a better passer rating than Derek Carr did. Also, thank you, Patrick Beanstar in the chat.
Yeah, I think this team's going to be fine. I'm willing to say that the sample size I've seen of this Raiders offense through the first, 11 games of the season, 10 games of the season, is better than the team I saw this week. I think they're going to be fine. I think their schedule, like you said, is favorable down the stretch too. This was just an ugly game, and it's not something you want to see at the end of the season. I still feel like they're still one of the best 6 teams in the AFC, though.
No, I do as well. Also, sorry, I forgot to mute my microphone when I blew my nose. Sorry about that. But yeah, I think so too. But again, you can't lose this type of game. And they play the Jets next week. So, okay, great bounce back. Great, great rebound week. That'll work out well. The problem, though, which we have to mention, is that last year the Raiders were in this exact same spot. They were 6-4, and I believe they lost the game and then played the Jets and got smoked by the Jets. I know they were better last year. I know. But it was essentially the same thing as this game was, where they just get smoked by a team that's not very good. Not terrible, but not very good. And it's a problem that this has happened in back-to-back years. We should criticize them for it. Although we should also give credit to Atlanta. This was, I think Deion Jones has, despite all this chaos, has put together an incredible season for Atlanta. One of the better players, one of the better linebackers in the league. But yeah, it just can't happen.
The linebackers in the NFC South are just unreal.
Yeah,
I think all that conversation's fair. I think it's going to be interesting, especially, I feel like that Miami game could weirdly decide who's making the postseason. I was looking through all the schedules, and I could honestly see them coming down to that 7 seed between them and the Browns. It remains to be seen, though, what it's going to look like by the end of the season. I think that this team's still good. I think they're still capable. But I guess my question is now on the Atlanta side. Raheem Morris probably locked up this job, didn't he?
Again, I feel like you're speaking too soon on a couple of these things. I think that he's looked really impressive, and I do think that if I'm a team that has a head coaching vacancy, I definitely at least put him in for an interview. He's one of the guys on the short list, I think, for sure. He's been incredible with what he's done. He has former head coaching experience. And, again, he went 10-6 with Tampa Bay. It wasn't all bad. But yeah, I mean, I can't say he's locked it up when there's still 5 games left. But yeah, this has been impressive. And there's one other thing I was going to mention about. Well, I just think for Atlanta, I think they might just want to move on, get a clean slate, and just wash their hands with the whole coaching staff. So I definitely am not going to sit here and say that he's definitely staying with Atlanta.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. He is also 4-2, and then if Todd Gurley can be at the 1-yard line, he's 5-1.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's been impressive for him. This turnaround, like we talked about, the Raiders' offense wasn't good, but also because the Falcons' defense was very good. So I think that plays a huge part in it too.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Any final thoughts on this one? I mean, I think that, again, Raiders, don't know what's going on. I'll have to watch the all 22 to really figure it out. That's my thought.
Yeah, that just about covers it for me.
Okay. Let's talk about, usually we don't talk about the Thursday game so quickly. I wanted to bring this one up earlier because of the Matt Patricia firing. You brought it up at the beginning of the show. I mean, yeah, Deshaun Watson went off. This was terribly coached by Matt Patricia. Him and Dan Quinn get fired the same day. What are your thoughts on this?
It had been a long time coming. This is a terribly executed team. Matt Patricia is a defensive guy who doesn't coach very good defenses year in and year out. It's just not a very well organized football team. I think they're very bad, and this is a talented roster that shouldn't be this bad. The Texans torched them. I think that Deshaun Watson has been really impressive the last couple of weeks, but this shouldn't be this bad for Detroit. So I think it's been a long time coming. We've obviously been very, very hard on Matt Patricia, but I think it's completely fair.
Yeah, I think I might have said Dan Quinn instead of Bob Quinn, but that's okay.
He's fired too. So
yeah, a lot of Quinns getting fired here. No, I mean, this has been terrible from Patricia. This is completely unacceptable. None of these guys know what to do when they're playing for the Lions. And like, if one guy makes a mistake, you say it's a mistake on the player. If every one of the players is making mental mistakes, at a certain point, it's coaching. Obviously, getting shut out 20-0 against Carolina is inexcusable. Getting outcoached severely by Romeo Crennel. It's just it can't happen. And good for Lions fans that it's the end of an era, and they can finally just hire Adam Gase next offseason.
Oh geez. No, I mean, I honestly feel like though this is the kind of team with a good head coach could be a pretty good football team. I feel like they could really bounce back. There's still a ton of talent on this offense. I think there's nice pieces on the defense that it can get better. I think this team could be really competitive next year with the right head coach in place.
Yeah. And for the Texans, nice win. Maybe winning some more could help lure you a better head coach, because they're going to need that without the draft picks. They obviously don't pick, so might as well. They don't pick in the first 2 rounds next year, so might as well just try and win games. Good win for them. Nice to see Watson playing. He's having a great season despite all the chaos around him as well. And yeah. Any final thoughts?
The both of these jobs now that they're both open, I guess I think the Lions is a job a lot of coaches should consider, because I think it's a really good job, and I think there is a good roster here. But if you're looking at just basically talented department, the Texans, while they don't have a lot of picks in the cupboard to work with, they have the most important piece. They have a guy who's if you were to. I'm putting you on the spot here. If you were to do a quarterback rankings right now, where's Watson? Because I think we had him 8th preseason.
Yeah, something like that. 7 around there. I mean, I don't know.
7,
I'd have to go through it and look. I mean, it's hard to do it off the top of your head. I don't want to forget anybody, but yeah, around there.
I mean, we had him 7 preseason. Is it crazy to say he's probably 4th or 3rd right now?
I don't know. I'll have to. I forget who I had. I forget who I had up there. I would have to look at it and everything. Sorry for giving you a non-answer, but I don't want to say yes when I haven't like looked at it and anything. Here's a question. Luke, I'm the great Luke G Field Review said Okuda should move to safety. What do you guys think? I wouldn't get crazy with that just yet. I mean, he's watched a lot more Lions tape than I have, but I think that maybe get him a defensive coach that actually knows how to develop a player and then see what you can do.
Yeah, and we've said this multiple times on this podcast. Look, rookie as far as rookie goes, I think the hardest ones to develop are cornerbacks and tight ends. I think they're the toughest position they're the toughest positions for development from college to the pro game, especially cornerback, especially when all the rules are kind of built against you and there's so many good wide receivers. I think he's going to be just fine. I still love his length over at cornerback. Just give it a year or two. I think he's going to be fine, though. He's going to be really good.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's move on. Let's go to the other Thanksgiving game. Why not? How about I, for one, welcome our new ball overlords. The Washington Balls, currently tied for the lead in the NFC East. They did lead it after the Thursday game. Of course, this would happen.
Yeah. I mean, this was Andy Dalton, man. This was just a weird game. Mike McCarthy's in a really tough spot. He's making it really hard to want to keep him around. Like, it's not even so much that they're losing these games and he's making questionable decisions. It's just like so egregiously bad decisions. Like the whole fake punt thing where, they're trying to use the punter as the decoy run. And it's so obvious that the punter doesn't have the ball and he's basically just wasting space.
I think they were supposed to throw it to the punter.
Oh, was he? Yeah,
I'm pretty sure that's what it was. It looked like that's what was supposed to happen, but then Dallas likes to run these. If they have Bones Fossil as their special teams coordinator, so they obviously that like people are going to be prepared for it, and Washington just like straight up dropped back into coverage immediately after.
Yeah, no, it's just such a bad situation right now. It's making it like I hate firing coaches after one season. It's something I really don't like in the NFL, but this is a situation where they can't lose these games. And not only lose these games, they can't get crushed. It's just a bad football team right now. Antonio Gibson torched them. That was, I think, his most impressive game of the season. There's a lot of hype out of him preseason. I thought he was really good. I don't know. The Balls are in a position to win this division based on how the chips are falling now.
Yeah, I mean, they really have a chance here, and they looked solid against that. Like, they didn't look like a bad team that won a football game. They looked like a pretty decent team. Obviously, the game was nowhere near as dominant as the score would indicate. They play Pittsburgh next week, so that's a loss. And really, I mean, you could argue that, who knows, but probably. But, they play San Francisco, they play Seattle, they play Carolina, and they play Philadelphia. So, again, like, that's not the most difficult schedule in the world. The problem is that it's not that good. But, good win for them, I guess. It can sort of help build the culture, look promising. And for everyone making fun of the NFC East, like, it's not Washington or the Giants' fault. They're rebuilding. The Cowboys and the Eagles, even Dallas just got really injured. It's Philadelphia's fault.
Yeah. No, I agree. They're a really bad football team. We'll unfortunately have to watch them tomorrow night. Yeah, weirdly too, all of these teams have really tough games left on their schedule.
Yeah.
Philadelphia has Seattle at Green Bay, New Orleans at Arizona before finishing at Dallas and against Washington. Washington has at Pittsburgh, at San Francisco, home to Seattle, Carolina at home, and then at Philadelphia to end the season as well. The Giants have at Seattle, Arizona at home, Cleveland at home, at Baltimore, and then finish with Dallas as well. Like, all of these teams have a legitimate shot still.
Yeah.
Like, you can't actually write off Dallas in this scenario.
Yeah, it's crazy. Let's just go over to the other NFC East game. The Giants are able to squeak one out over the Cincinnati Bengals. They beat the Joe Burrow-less Cincinnati Bengals by 2 points. This is kind of a very ugly game in a lot of parts. What was your thoughts on it?
Yeah, the kick return touchdown. I mean, I didn't think the Bengals are really that good. The kick return obviously changed a lot of things because they got that, gave them some momentum. I mean, I don't really know what to think about this Giants team. They look decent at times, but at the same time, like you said, they're rebuilding. There's a lot of issues with this team. But you look at this team and say like Evan Ingram, Sterling Shepard, that they have a lot of talent on the outside that can make plays.
Yeah, and it looked like Daniel Jones was actually having a pretty good game. The chat is going crazy with some Daniel Jones hype. I'm not sure what happened there, but yeah, I mean he was looking good, and then he goes down with an injury, and we get Colt McCoy, which I love Colt McCoy. I hope Colt McCoy, like I tweeted out, I'm still like somewhat convinced that he could end up like reaching his full potential and being a good quarterback, despite the fact that he's 34 years old. Like there's just something about Colt McCoy where it's like you can't forget about him. He's one of the all-time backups. Yeah,
well, he's Texas icon, honestly. He should have just played at the Longhorns forever. Yeah, so that's the interesting part is that I was just reading the report that it seems like Daniel Jones's hamstring injury is bad. Or what's the quote say? Pretty bad is what the quote says. So, if he's having to miss some time, now you look at this Giants team who you're thinking – maybe this team's now the favorite to win the NFC East, trending in the right direction. Well, they have to play Colt McCoy.
They get to play Colt McCoy.
Now they're going to
win. Yes. Well, yeah, but again, you look at their schedule. They play Seattle, they play Arizona, they play Cleveland, and they play Baltimore. Those are 4 playoff contending teams. They finally finished week 17 is against Dallas. And by the way, could you imagine how happy the NFL would be if they could squeak that Dallas Giants game, if that decided the division, and they could put that as a Sunday night game deciding the division week 17. Oh, that would
they'd now, be here's a couple of teams looking to produce a playoff spot.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh man. Yeah, I don't know. Like this is such a weird thing. I mean, if you put if you just said the over-under is 6 wins, or you could say push 2. So over-under 6 wins for the winner of the NFC East. Which way would you go?
I think I'd probably, 6. I feel like it's going to end up being 6. I feel like someone's going to win a second game. If I had to pick over or under, though, I would pick under.
Yeah. So if it was 6.5, you'd say under?
Yeah.
That's disgusting. That's absolutely disgusting. I hate this. I
love it.
I hate all sports. I hate all sports who do this to me. Well, here's what's more fun. You know what I love? Seeing the best 14 teams play for a championship. Not
I disagree. Why would we care about this? This is going to give us like 10 more games, probably like 15 more games that we actually like have a reason to watch. Whereas in the past we just like, okay, whatever. The Giants and Eagles are playing. Who cares?
Yeah, I guess, but yeah, I mean, I'd rather see the best 14 teams in the playoffs, no matter what conference or division they're in.
All right, well, let's just get rid of divisions. Whoever has the best record, or get rid of playoffs. Just best record wins.
Yeah, that's fine too.
Okay, no,
that's how they do it in Europe. No,
yeah, it is stupid. I hate it. Whatever. We'll move on. This is America, baby. All right. Well,
oh boy.
Well, let's talk Chargers. Bills. Anthony Lynn stole the show, and really is just proving the best game manager in football.
Yeah, I mean, I felt like the game was over at the end, but the running the ball at the goal line was hilarious. Yeah, weird game. I thought Austin Eckler looked really good coming back, and they threw the ball 52 times, but at the end of the game when they need a touchdown, when they need a touchdown, they run the football after throwing it 52 times. Makes absolutely zero sense. It was I just don't see him lasting the next season.
Yeah, I mean, it was. I believe Herbert was in the Blaine Gabbert zone. At a certain point, he ends up getting out of it with his Hail Mary at the end of the game, but then it gets called back, and then he throws a second Hail Mary, and that one works, and then that leads to them just running out the clock, essentially, which, again, it didn't matter. They were down 2 scores. They were going to lose. There was also a hilarious moment where Josh Allen threw an interception that was like a crucial one that gave the Chargers a chance down 1 score. Herbert immediately throws an interception right back. Kind of a sloppy, weird game, but that kind of describes a lot of the Chargers game so far and really the Bills game so far.
Yeah. I mean, I felt like I walked in, I saw this game at halftime and it was 17-6, and I was like, yeah, I just about got everything I needed out of this game. I feel like I know exactly where these two teams are. I don't love the Bills, but I also don't hate the Bills, and I think they're going to win the division. I think they're talented enough to do it. But yeah, I felt like both teams are fine and going in their right direction, based off the Chargers rebuilding around Herbert and the Bills now winning this wide open AFC East.
You really have them over the Dolphins? Or I meant to say over the Patriots. I screwed up my joke. I was going to do the other one, but I said the wrong thing. Never mind. Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's really a bold take to say they're going to win the division. But yeah, I mean, whatever. They win. It wasn't pretty, but a win is a win, and you win by 10 points. Largely thanks to some Anthony. I do think, though, I believe the line was like, 4.5 or something. So if you had the Chargers plus 4.5, probably not thrilled about that final play calling.
Oh, not at all. You're probably getting pissed about that one. Yeah, I mean, I guess, just to go on my Bills thing one more time, I just continue to say it. I feel like that there's, like you said, it's not a hot take to say that they're going to win the AFC East. I think that's, probably expected, even in the offseason and going into now, definitely expected. I just feel like there's a complete ceiling on this team. I don't think that this team's good enough to compete with Pittsburgh or Kansas City. You could say, yeah, maybe this team only has to, on any given day, any team can win. But I just feel like I would be honestly surprised if they beat either of those teams in the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, when they played Kansas City pretty much led that entire game. They do also play Pittsburgh in 2 weeks. That's going to be on Sunday Night Football. So that could be potentially a preview for a divisional round matchup. We'll see what happens. Yeah, interesting stuff. Let's move on. Let's talk about Cleveland. And I mean, again, they beat Jacksonville. Like, this is not good, right? This is like not, you don't feel great about it or do you feel good about it? Like, I don't know. I have a hard, like, at the end of the day, you are 8-3, but narrowly beating Jacksonville. In fairness, there were some bad calls that went against them. I think that kind of made a little bit, but yeah, there was this weird part where Kevin Stefanski in field goal range decides to go for it, and doesn't get it, which now keeps it an 8-point game, which meant that Jacksonville was able to come back and nearly tie the game up. You nearly lost to Mike Glennon. I was going to make a joke if they did lose that to become like the Steelers, first you have to lose to Mike Glennon, I guess. But they didn't do that. Yeah, just kind of a weird game from them.
Yeah, I mean, it really was. I mean, I feel like this team's just destined to make the playoffs, get that Saturday afternoon TV slot that nobody watches on CBS, and then lose by 20 in that game. I mean, no one's going to be excited for this team to make the playoffs because of how they play. But, they do their thing. They're not going to blow anybody out because they just run the football all the time and they control the game on the ground. I think it's a smart thing. I thought Mayfield actually had some good throws. I mean, I know the memes going around about the 2 guys wide open in the end zone and it wasn't a touchdown. But at the same time, I still thought he made some pretty good throws in this one. But yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter if they're playing the Jaguars or they're playing the Ravens or, one of the best teams in football. Yeah, it doesn't matter if they're playing the Jaguars or one of the best teams in football. They're going to play their game. They're going to play their style. They're going to control the game with their running attack, and they're not afraid to chew off 8 minutes of drive.
I mean, yeah, I mean, that really is what it comes. I mean, Kareem Hunt had 7.6 yards per carry, which meant that, Nick Chubb had 7.6 yards per carry. Kareem Hunt with the pedestrian 6.2 yards per carry. And yeah, Mayfield's stats were awesome. Granted, everyone's stats are awesome against Jacksonville. They don't have a very good defense. So I would have liked to see them, not give up 5.8 yards to James Robinson. I would have liked to see them not let Mike Glennon look competent against them. but they do get the win. You're 8-3, and they have both New York teams still on their schedule, so you got to think this is at least 10-6, and that'll probably get you into the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to come down to the wire. Because I was looking at the playoff picture, and I think it'll be interesting because also they have, they do have those 2 games against the New York teams that they should win, but they also have Tennessee, Baltimore, and Pittsburgh, who beat them up a little bit earlier in the season in Baltimore and Pittsburgh. So 10-6 should get them in, but at the same time, who knows?
Yeah. No, I totally agree. So Kenneth Lee says getting waxed in the POs is a big win for Cleveland. I'm trying to figure out. Do you know what this thing?
He's saying getting crushed in the playoffs is a big thing. Is a successful season for Cleveland.
Yes, thank you for being my translator on that one. I mean, yeah, that's true, and that's kind of how I feel about it as a Tampa Bay fan. It's like we're probably not going to win the Super Bowl this year, but I'll take a playoff appearance. Yeah, we'll move on. Let's talk about the Saints Broncos. I mean, to me, I don't know. This is weird. I do have to say, though, there's a lot of people saying it's not fair that Denver got punished for, they got punished when Baltimore, they got to make they pushed the games back. And the reason why Baltimore, the games kept getting pushed back is because they didn't know where the spread was. In Denver, they knew where the spread was, and you had all of your quarterbacks in the same room. So that's why you had no quarterbacks to play. Like, to me, it felt a little bit like, how dare we get punished for our own stupidity?
Yeah. And Vic Fangio said pretty much post game the same thing. This was a weird game. I didn't watch this one that much. I'm going to be honest, because I kind of figured how it was going to go as soon as I saw. I have to look up his name. Kendall Hinton was going to start at quarterback. I was just like, okay, I think I could turn this game off. So it's just, it was weird. I think that the one justification we get out of this, I saw a really great tweet. I'm forgetting the guy's name. Sorry, guy. But Kendall Hinton was a state championship quarterback and also started at Wake Forest for multiple seasons. And in his first NFL game, he went 1 of 9 for 13 yards and 2 interceptions and was also sacked once. So if anybody on Twitter or your friends or anything says that they can do anything against professional athletes, you should just point to this game and say they cannot, because Kendall Hinton is a very good athlete and he can't do anything against professional athletes. So
yeah,
I just think it says a lot about, just a weird game. So I'm just putting it up as that.
Yeah. So are you saying that my friends who totally would have gone pro before they got injured maybe aren't quite as honest as they might think?
Yes, I'm saying that exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, no, there was 10 total completions in this game, which has to be, I don't know when the last time that has happened. It was, I don't know. I saw people before the game were saying this is now much watch television. This was not must watch television. This was, I think we all kind of wanted to see what would happen when an emergency quarterback had to play. I think at this point we can say, you know what? I'm good. Let's just keep the quarterbacks in there. I like quarterbacks.
I made a joke. I thought it was funny before the game that John Elway is going to line up all of his people his entire team shortest to tallest, and the tallest guy was going to play quarterback. Mm-hmm. Didn't turn out that way, but I thought that would have been entertaining to see. They just pick out the tallest guy.
I saw DeMar Dotson at 6'9", the right tackle. He would have been the guy. So that's a tall quarterback.
Yeah, John Elway was just like, oh, man.
I like the idea of John Elway himself coming back and playing quarterback.
It'd be like Burt Reynolds in The Longest Yard, where he trots out for that last play, gets hit once, and then he's just like, ugh. Yeah, that'd basically be John Elway at this point. I mean, do you have any legitimate takeaways from this game? Because I don't.
No, it's just like if it almost felt like the Saints were like playing like a college offense, where it's just like this is not they don't have any quarterbacks. I think my biggest takeaway is, hey, get a guy on a practice squad, have him, study film for each week, and just leave him at home. Just have him not be in the facility just in case.
Yeah. No, I mean, that'd be great if like the NFL just compiled a list of reserve quarterbacks that like have to quarantine themselves at all time, like a designated survivor sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But, I mean, okay, so I do actually have one question from this game. I have one takeaway. So just from this game is, if Breeze has to miss a playoff game, is this Taysom Hill thing like possible?
Yeah, it's possible. I think so. I mean, possible. I'm not going to count them out.
Yeah, I mean, I know so hypothetically they go in as like the 2 seed. They lose the game and go in as a 2 seed. Breeze, for whatever reason, still isn't back. Would you pick them to beat the Cardinals?
I think so. I don't know. It's hard. We would have to see I mean, in this scenario, we've now seen 5 more games of Taysom Hill. We've seen him play against the Chiefs defense. At that point, I would make my decision then. Again, these hypotheticals are sometimes difficult because there's a lot of variables that will lead up to it. If I go into a coma and get out of the coma right before the playoffs and this scenario occurs, then I think yes. But again, we would have to see how it plays out.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's tough. I think, I don't know. It just looks so bad at times. I mean, as much as it works in running the football, I just think I don't know how much you can sustain an offense when a guy is only going to be able to complete 9 passes a game.
Yeah, well, the flip side is that they have their defense that can, completely dominate. I know this was a weird game, but they dominated against Atlanta. They dominated against San Francisco. They dominated against Tampa Bay both times. So this defense, when healthy, can be really good. But yeah, whatever. We'll move on. All right, last game of the week, because of course it's the last game of the week. The Jets lost this one.
Oh, man. I mean, Adam Gase continues to show why he's the coach of the year. Just, flawless execution once again to continue to get that number 1 pick. Why does Sam Darnold start? Why is it just a shoo-in that when he's healthy, he's going to start?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, in fairness, Sam Darnold got 3 points in this game, which was 3 more than Joe Flacco got when he played Miami. So they made progress.
I still feel like Flacco has looked better at times throughout this season. It's time for him to move on. I mean, that's obvious. They're going to get Trevor Lawrence. I think the one takeaway you take from the Jets is, Denzel Mims looks nice. So they have that going for them. Fitzpatrick comes in, and it looks like Tua is going to miss some time. And I thought he was pretty good in this one. It wasn't a flawless game, but I thought he was good enough. Just the Jets stink. Yeah,
I mean, you're not kidding. Again, for Miami, I almost feel like this is a bit of a disappointing game for Miami. Again, you win 20-3, but their offense wasn't really great. Devontae Parker was, and Fitzpatrick had his moments, but you would have liked to see them. I think winning by 17 against the Jets is kind of a disappointment.
Yeah, I mean, I guess. So, I mean, I thought they were just fine.
Yeah.
I just think I know it's the NFL and you're saying, oh, well, they're competing for a playoff spot. It's just, I feel like it's still kind of hard to just get really motivated to play a team like this. It's so pathetic. Yeah. I mean, maybe it's just me, but I think it's a tough thing. But I thought they were fine. I thought they did their job and left. Nobody got hurt as far as I know. So that's the most important thing. As far as real quickly here, late catcher, hey, you with the headphones on, I guess he's speaking to you. Do you guys respond to any of this chatter? Yes, when we get a good question asked. So,
yeah.
I mean, that's kind of how I felt about this Dolphins game. They were fine. They did the job. Yes.
There was a couple of those. I think, well, I mean, yeah. What do you want us to? Broncos should get Dwayne Haskins from Washington. I go. Okay, great question, Zalay. Thanks for complaining about it. No, yeah. I'm trying to be funny. We appreciate your questions, but yeah.
Yeah. I mean, do you take away anything from this Dolphins team?
Not really. I mean, they didn't even have the quarterback that's going to be starting. I mean, they play Cincinnati next week. You got to win that one as well. It's a good bounce back after losing to Denver the week prior, but I don't know. This Miami team, they kind of feel almost a bit like the Raiders last year. Like, I feel like they're going to end up just falling short.
I do too. I mean, I think it's too tough. They play the Chiefs, the Raiders, and the Bills to end the season. Like, I feel like this is 9-7, but at the same time, they lost to New England earlier in the season. This could be an 8-18 that, I mean, I went through the schedules a little bit and just kind of sketched out what I thought. And I do think that they're probably on the outside. I think that they're probably end up as the 8 seed or the 9 seed.
Yeah, it seems likely. Even if they make the playoffs, I just think they're a year away, and that's fine. You're okay with that. So, yeah, that's our show. Those are all the games. Kind of an interesting week. Some fun, maybe not the best week to be honest, but a fine one. And we still have a couple games that could be interesting. I don't know, maybe.
Yeah, no, I think it will be. Some of these playoff. I still feel like that the playoffs are going to end up kind of chalk to what we're thinking right now, but I do think that there are some there are opportunities for them to pull this off and some interesting playoff scenarios down the line that could play out.
Yeah, I like this. Will Lawrence pull an Eli? My thing with pulling an Eli is I always feel like the problem is, like people said this last year with Cincinnati, where it's like Burrow shouldn't play for the Bengals, but it's like, what? So he should then go ahead and play for like the Giants or the Washington football team. Like the problem is that there's rarely a good organization near the bottom. Like, what do you is it that much better to play for Jacksonville? I almost feel like I'd rather play for the Jets than for the Jaguars.
Yeah, I mean the Jets still have. Correct me if I'm wrong, but they have a few good draft picks coming up too this next couple of years, right?
Well, because they traded Jamal Adams, so they got all of that capital.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't think any team should do anything. I don't think any player should do anything like that. I think they're just going to end up, like, even if they did or even if he threatens to not play or whatever it was that Eli did, like, I think that it's I think that they might just draft him anyways. Like, what else are they going to do? You need that quarterback, and if Lawrence is really threatening not to play, then he can just sit out.
Yeah. Let's see. Someone said, "What software do you guys use to watch and edit film?" Yeah. What software do you use, Kyle, to watch and edit film?
None.
Yeah. No. Sorry. Yeah. I used NFL. Appreciate the $2, of course, and I use NFL Game Pass to watch film, and I use Vegas Pro to edit. Yeah. All right. Well, I was going to take some more questions, but it seems like the questions have dried up. So we'll just end the show. Kyle, let them know where they can find you with all your stuff.
Yeah, GuyBostonSports.com, where you can see some Patriots content there, the Patriot Way podcast, and Patriots. I'll probably do some writing this week as well. We'll get back into that around my full-time job schedule. So make sure to tune into that. That's at GuyBostonSports.com.
Yeah, Kyle has a boring real person job, so he has to focus on that more.
Ho-hum, yeah. Good stuff.
All right. Yeah. All right. Kind of a weird way to end this, but all right. We'll just move on. Thanks to everyone for watching. Appreciate it. And until next time, have a good one.
Peace.